welcome to anyone who's watching. I've got the lovely Sarah English here, who's a copywriter, and she'll introduce herself now. But every time I talk to you, Sarah, I feel this need and this desire to go out and do better. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. You have this aura and this energy about you, and I love talking to you so much. So, if you can tell us a bit about yourself, about your business, and what kind of business you generally look for.
Yeah, so I'm a freelance copywriter. I started my business about 3.5 years ago. Actually started, like my main story is I started with 69 pence in the bank. I decided to leave recruitment. It wasn't for me. You have to be a certain type of person to work in recruitment, so it wasn't for me. I've always had a huge love for writing. I've taken so many courses just in my own free time, just because I wanted to, learn how to write properly, creative writing, writing for children. I did them all. So I did that. So after a while, I was like, why am I doing this for a living? I've always worked in sales and recruitment, so I know how to word things to sell to customers without selling. So I just thought, well, why aren't I doing this for a living? So I launched my business, Right Idea. And it just exploded from there. 3.5 years later, I couldn't be happier. I'm doing what I love to do, and that's writing for customers and their business.
That's brilliant. Is there a bit of what do they call it? Nominative determinism with your name, your surname being English?
Well, yeah. I mean, like with my surname being English, what was I supposed to do? So,
and I haven't gone into banking at all. What?
The surname definitely helps, but it wasn't intentional. And it is my real surname.
Oh, is it? Okay. I had to get that out there. So my first question to you, being a professional copywriter and having done this, what are your biggest challenges that you face in the modern age as a copywriter?
Because I do a lot of social media management for clients, is staying ahead of all the changes to algorithms, all the background stuff to our lovely social media platforms. And plus, staying ahead of the game of what is coming up, that's the new stuff that's coming up, because TikTok is taking over the world. And I think TikTok will be used by businesses going forwards and replacing Facebook, quite honestly. It's such a, I mean, I always say when I go on TikTok, I go in the TikTok black hole, because that is, you literally lose hours to it. But I have noticed more and more businesses now are using TikTok, and I think it's a really good platform to get in on right at the beginning. But there's going to be other stuff coming up, and I think Facebook now, especially by young people, is seen as the older person's platform. So I do think Facebook will be dying a death at some stage. Well, LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn. I met you on LinkedIn. Friggin' love it.
Yeah, there's such a difference I find between LinkedIn and Facebook, and I think it's if we were to post the same sentence on Facebook as on LinkedIn and then on Twitter, you would get different responses across each one.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Well, I think you find that with LinkedIn, like you tend to get you grown-ups, that actually it is a business platform. But at the end of the day, it can still be fun and social as well. But it's just having that balance. Whereas Facebook, you don't write anything because, if you get banned, I mean, I've been banned for some absolutely ridiculous reasons, genuine reasons as well, don't get me wrong. But yeah, you can get banned for, at the drop of the hat. So I do think Facebook people will start moving away from it, definitely. And whether there'll be a new platform that comes in that replaces it, I don't know, remains to be seen, but wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that's interesting then. So you've mentioned TikTok and moving away from Facebook. And we were going to talk about the AI writing tools. So Chat GPT has become a big one. But that's an interesting one because TikTok isn't a text platform. So how do you see copywriting impacting?
So I'm not so sure about. I think it's more storyboarding with TikTok.
Okay.
So with the copywriting side of it, it would be more, the whole storyboarding and actually what someone's going to say. So it would be more it wouldn't be something that you visually see on TikTok. It'd be more the guidance to whoever is going on TikTok. So I think there always will be a space for copywriters to share in TikTok. And it'd be a shame if they didn't really, because, the platform's, there, and there's so much creativity in there. It's, people are doing new stuff all the time. Yeah. And I do think, there's definitely a space there.
Okay, that's an interesting one. So we had a little discussion outside of this about the tools, and you said you use, what is the tool, Chat copy.ai?
Yes, copy.ai.
How do you use it? Like sometimes,
in all fairness, I use it very, very minimally. I only really use it to come up with blog titles. Or if I'm struggling to construct a sentence, if I look at something and for some reason it just isn't reading right, I can't get it to read right, which always happens. I'm not a genius, it does happen. I will use copy AI for that. For anything more than that, I don't use. Because my sole focus is when I get to know a customer. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting to know them. I'm getting to know what drives their business, what drives them, who their customers are, what they do. I'd like to get so into the business that I could pretty much work there.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing for them, I'm writing with all that passion that they have, and all the. It's so much more personal. It's got the personality to it, and as much as I think like the AI for copywriting is great for people who just want to put out massive amount of content, perhaps it's a great idea. But if you really want it to personally reflect you and your business, I don't think it's quite there yet. But saying that, I haven't used it enough to 100% say that's positive. But I think I would feel a bit of a fraud if I said to my customers, I'm going to write this for you, and I used AI to write it for me. That wouldn't sit right with me. I mean, it might well do to other people, but definitely doesn't sit right to me.
Yeah, no, I get that. I've been leaning on it a bit, especially with when you get stuck, because I suffer with writer's block a lot. So for me, the starting point is always the worst. And every time even if I'm designing something, or if I'm creating a video, or if I'm writing something, I find I get stuck on the starting point. And I found quite an interesting. So I looked at copy.ai. I'm going to put it up on the screen because I found there was quite a difference between the two. And it was quite something. So this is the copy.ai. There's quite a lot going on here. So to get started, you have to create a project and so on and so on. Chat GPT, you just ask it a question. And I find it very useful. You can see my little chats on here. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, how am I going to start this post? So we can ask it for a just social media post about a podcast on AI creative writing. Let's see what it says. And then it'll do its thing and just comes up. There, it's already started. It talks a lot of rubbish. I mean, just listen to an amazing podcast. It really hasn't. But when you ask it for a social media post, it gives you hashtags as well. But I like this because if I look at this, it gives me an opportunity to go, okay, I like it or I don't like it. And then I know whether I can change it or not. So it's quite useful. But when you read that, it doesn't feel, like you mentioned, there's no personality, is it?
No. And I think so, it's great as a guide to help you construct a paragraph or a sentence or, a whole piece of writing, it's, it's great to use as a guide. But if you can put it into your own words, like my writing is going to be very different to another copywriter's. It's all about sort of getting to know the business and what they stand for and using words that they would use that's in the right context for them. And an AI, I don't think, is ever going to have that personal side of it. But as a guide, it's absolutely fantastic. And especially if, either English isn't your first language, or if you, say, have dyslexia or anything like that, then, I think this sort of tool is absolutely incredible for those reasons.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that for people with those kind of disabilities.
And I think so, like not everybody. I mean, I talk to clients and they're like, I want you to do it all because I hate writing. And there are literally some people that just don't enjoy writing. And that's fine. We all have our different, things that we are good at. I mean, I hate maths for a start. So anything mathematical goes straight over my head. I'm not interested at all. So, you hire, if you have a water leak in a pipe, you hire a plumber. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah. Something I found interesting that I'd like your thoughts on is that, let's say a lot of people adopt this tool and they use, just like I've done, they make an AI tool, right? Their social media posts, their blogs, whatever it is. Yeah. At some point, the voice of general social media that these people are creating will become this AI's voice. Do you feel then that possibly gives you a competitive advantage because you can change the tone and change the voice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all people are always going to look for, genuine sort of copy. They want to know that it is genuine. And I think not only that, is further along the line, I think the algorithms that sit behind the platforms will start recognising when something's being written AI and will start blocking it and, show it to less people. So, you, like I say, where I say sort of keeping ahead of what the algorithms are doing, they will catch on to people that are just constantly putting AI content out there, and they will stop it. So it's probably best not to go down that route in the first place, because you could end up finding yourself a little bit lost along the line.
That's such a great point. I didn't even consider that. I didn't even consider that at some point they are, because on Instagram I see it all the time. Luckily on LinkedIn we don't have it that much. Instagram, Twitter, there's bots all over the place, and they drive you nuts because anytime you post anything on Instagram, it'll say share to and then give some other rubbish account.
Yeah.
And that's 90% of the comments on Instagram these days. There's some sort of bot. And they're clamping down on it. So at some point it'll happen here too.
Yeah. I think sort of like, like I say, I mean, AI is a fantastic tool, but I would be a bit reluctant to solely rely on it for social media, because the more people use it, the more they'll clamp down on it. So best to get ahead of it before that happens, I would say.
But look, it is quite impressive. I know I shared with you the other day that little the Dr. Seuss, because you can change the voice. Yeah. And let's try it again. So let's write a 200-word blog. Should we pick a topic?
Horror films.
Horror films. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to put this in the style of Dr. Seuss again. So let's see if it comes up. And I mean, I think one of the reasons why I like picking on the style of Dr. Seuss is that I've done this before. I wrote a blog post, listen to me. I can't even speak English properly now. And I wrote a blog post along the style. I was working for a recruitment company and I did that in the style of Dr. Seuss, because that's the kind of thing I like to do. I did it. I had to write a little commercial for my BNI chapter over Christmas, and I did the night before Christmas, but with a marketing twist. But I sat down and I wrote that. I had the poem next to me, and I thought, well, how can I draw parallels? And I did it. Yeah. That seems to be stuck here for us. Maybe the horror films and Dr. Seuss, another good comment. But yeah, so I mean, I've done that before. So I mean, I quite like it, and I think it's very fun to be creative in that regard. And it's something I know that not everyone can do. So it gives you that kind of edge.
I think that's it. I mean, it's great to try and to use it to get your creative juices flowing. It's like you say, if you've got writer's block and you're stuck there with a blank piece of paper and you've no idea how to start, then AI is great for getting your enthusiasm about what you're going to write and to give you ideas of how you're going to put it together. But literally just use it as a guide, put it into your own words so it's your own personality when no matter what you're doing, if it's on your website or, social media or anything, it still needs to be your personality. So just use it, but as, like you say, just as a handy tool rather than the sole reason why you're using it.
I'm going to add to what you just said about personality. I've noticed, no matter how big the business, if I do their social media and the media, whether it's a video or photo, is of a person, people respond better to it. They want to see people. They want to interact with other people. They don't want to interact with a brand or a tool. They want to see the people.
And that's it. So, I mean, even sort of like with images, stock images don't actually do very well on social media. Whereas if it's a picture of the actual person or the team or something like that, they do so much better. And I don't, again, that could be the algorithm picking those out.
It could be.
We never know for sure. But yeah, I think people love that, that connection with you when they see your website or your social media. They love that connection because they can put a face to a name.
Yeah.
So, I think that's always going to do better.
I also believe that somewhere along the line, we hate ads. People love to say they hate ads. Actually, we don't hate ads. We hate ads that are lazy or uncreative.
Yes.
But when a business advertises and puts an effort, so if I were to send something to you, if I were to send you a handwritten Christmas card, you would appreciate it more than if I were to send you one that was just printed out generically, because it would be less personal. And I feel that people appreciate marketing that has an effort. And if you've made an effort to take your phone out and take a photo, they appreciate that more than you finding a stock photo.
I think that's it. I mean, it just goes back to clever marketing. If you look at the adverts that you remember, like from there's adverts I still remember from my childhood, and it's because they made me laugh or, they made me feel a particular way. And like you say, if a company has gone to the effort of, making something personal, whatever, it's remembered. Whereas, like we are hit with adverts left, right, and centre all the time. Companies are, it is difficult to get seen and get recognised, but most importantly, you want to be remembered. So, you need to spend that extra time on the marketing to make yourself memorable.
That's true. But even on the topic of memorable, so I've just been glancing at this little Dr. Seuss story.
That is actually really good.
It's actually not too bad. I can see that. I love this line here. So this is very Dr. Seuss. In these films of horror and dread, we see things that make us shake in our bed. I think that's very cute. So it seems to have captured the elements and the feel. But I must be honest. If I saw this, it wouldn't it wouldn't grab me, and I can't tell you why. Maybe because I know it's been written by an AI tool. Maybe
I think what I found with AI is, like you say, there's just something. It's just that little bit disjointed. It's like, if you've got a joining on a wall, it's like there's just something slightly off.
Yeah.
And I think you can pick up on it. It just doesn't flow like it does when it's a person writing.
Yeah.
And whether that will change in the future or not, because, basically it's not a person that's just sat on the other end just writing this. But, whether it will improve. But I think for writing, there's just that little thing that's just slightly off. And I found that as well.
How's this for a theory? That imperfection is what makes it different.
Yeah, great point.
Because if we were to talk to each other, there'd be a pause where we're thinking of a word, we'd look away and go, I don't know what, and then that little imperfection makes it human.
Yeah. I think as well, so I mean, if you were, say, you speak very differently to how you write, but you still have that natural flow. And when you're talking to someone, you have a natural flow, you're responsive to each other. When you're writing, you still need that natural flow. Mm-hmm. You can't, even say if you're writing a story, and you're saying, oh, he said this and she said this and whatever. If you were to put that into a play, you would actually write that differently. Only slightly differently, but differently. And I think with AI, it is that in between of like having that conversation with the person and having that written on page.
Okay.
So it's trying to come out as like a conversation, but it's just not quite natural enough.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I get it. And I agree. I think that's where it is. So, what are your thoughts then? So you've mentioned that you think the algorithms will start clamping down on these. Do you think marketing in general, what do you think the big brands will be doing? Let's pick on Coca-Cola. What will they do?
I would really hope that the big brands don't go AI. I think I would be quite disappointed if they did, because they have a huge budget for marketing, and there are people there. I mean, AI images, on the other hand, don't get me started on those. Those are absolutely incredible.
Really?
The AI images that I've seen are superb. But is this going to take the place of artists? Or, would you pay, I don't know, say £50,000 for a painting that was AI generated, or would you pay £50,000 for a painting that someone had painted?
Yeah. So that's an interesting. I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was in Paris, I went to Musée d'Orsay, and so they had a little Van Gogh, which was great. I love seeing the big names, but there was a painting called Clair de Lune, I think it was.
Yeah.
Small little painting, which was effectively it was like a lake or the sea, and there was the moon or the sun in the background. And from far, it looked like a print. It looked like someone had taken a photograph. But when you're up close, you can see the fine little brush strokes that the artist used to paint the reflection on the water to make it look like waves. And those fine little details made me think, I don't think any computer, as much as they can recreate what it looks like from far, they would never be able to make something so creative and so precise.
Yeah. I think, it kind of, so I think AI kind of cheapens what, a person can produce. I think, like going back to, the artist side of things, there's been a person that has painstakingly put hours and hours into that piece of artwork, and they've put their, same with writing, they've put their love, their passion, their soul into what they've produced. And on the other hand, you've got a computer that can do it in a couple of minutes. It doesn't sit right with me at all. I think it's when it's from a person, you've got the genuine article. And like you say, you have those few imperfections, but that's what makes it perfect.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, big organisations will start to use it, but I actually think it will be used more by smaller organisations that don't have the marketing budget.
Okay.
I think the larger organisations will still want that human touch, because I think they understand more that it is important to have good copy, good images. I think they see the importance in it, whereas the small business owner, I think, will be more likely to think, this can be, cost saving. I don't have to put the budget into paying someone to write for me, or, so I do think the smaller organisations will begin to use it a lot more than the larger ones.
That's a fascinating take, actually. So AI sounds very expensive. So it sounds like something that massive corporations will do. I mean, the likes of Google, Microsoft, they've been punting it forever. But I think you're right. I think the big organizations will have the budget to differentiate themselves using humans. I was on the Hugo Boss website the other day, and do you know who's one of the new models? Do you know that the most followed TikTok guy, Kabi, he actually doesn't even speak in his TikToks. He just does, and then he does the hand gesture. That's his whole.
Oh, yes, I know. Yes, I know
He's
exactly
now
what you're talking about.
On the Hugo Boss website.
He's so brilliant. I love him.
So what a great rise for this guy who had an original concept. Was perhaps you could say he was in the right space at the right time with TikTok.
Yeah.
But I think it's less that and more that he had an original concept, executed it well, was consistent enough, was human enough for us to all look at him and go, yeah, I understand that. And you connected with him. And now he's doing really well, and big brands are paying him, I hope, a lot of money. I've seen him in the Formula One in the paddock, so I hope they're paying him a lot. But yeah, so I mean, that AI wouldn't have come up with that.
No.
It would never have in a million years. So I just find it so great that this human who was, I believe he was laid off at one stage, and then he started making TikToks, and now he's a celebrity. It's brilliant.
I think as well, I mean, the younger generation, they are all about sort of, doing the videos and the reels and stuff like that. So it's all very visual stuff. And I think because it is all visual, everyone loves to, watch a video or see photos or whatever. No one wants to read big streams of writing and, not very many people sit down and read a book anymore. But you make something exciting enough and you have marketing that backs that up, then, that's where your audience are.
And then I was coming back to something you said earlier about, your skills as a copywriter, leaning into TikTok. I mean, I know that you will know how to keep attention through a 300-word, 500-word, 2,000-word article. And then you'd be able to use that to help keep attention in a video.
Yeah. I mean, I think sort of videography is a completely different skill. And if I was to actually, to start doing TikToks for a business, I would want to work with a videographer because that is not my main skill. That's their skill. Yeah. But as far as sort of, laying it out, as in like your storyboarding it, what someone would say when they say it, or the mannerisms or anything like that, then that would be something that I would do, which is something that I do in my writing. Like you say, you have to keep the attention constantly. Even when you're writing about something really dull and boring, and trust me, I've written a lot of copy on subjects that aren't the most interesting, but to hold that attention, especially for people who, say if I'm writing something, I'm going to use Bruce, for example, accountancy, not the most interesting of subjects, and I have written for an accountant before. And when you are putting that copy together, you want to be, talking to someone like you or I, who have our own business, who don't really want to do it themselves. So it needs to be put in simple terms, straightforward, no jargon, and that's the way you sort of keep that audience entertained and involved and actually want to keep on reading. And, TikTok and the videos are going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And I think now you've inspired me. Now I need to go make some more TikToks. I kind of hate it, but I also kind of like it. I think it's a great video editing tool. It's given amateurs a lovely facility to do some great things. And I
think it's like sort of we had like Instagram, and of course with Instagram you've got your videos, you've got your and it's like you have so much, you're more limited, whereas TikTok is there's so much. And it's going to carry on improving as well, which, I can't wait to see. I don't like being on camera myself.
Okay.
So as long as I'm in the background, it's fine. But
get used to it.
I'm just telling the people what to do.
Every time I do something like this, I cut my hair. because I was out and a friend took a photo and I realized how grey my hair is.
Oh, bless you.
When it's shaved like this, it doesn't look so bad.
Exactly why I dye my hair blonde.
But yeah, I mean, we all have our insecurities, I think. When I first started on video, I hated the sound of my own voice. And, as I'm saying that, I know that I'm going to be editing this, listening back to my own voice 20 times over because that's what you do. But after a while, I thought, well, I have to get used to it because I need to do this to do what I want to do. It's just a barrier.
And it's the same with me. I mean, when I first started, I was asked to go on lots of podcasts and radio shows and stuff like that. And I dreaded having to do them, and I would panic and have hot, cold sweats before it started and be so incredibly nervous. But coming out your comfort zone, you keep on doing it, then, before long, hey, do you know what? I enjoy doing it. Yeah. So, and it completely changes it. With the same with TikTok videos as well.
I also got quite comfortable looking stupid. So I realized, I started playing music when I was about 16. And I'd be live on stage and you get very nervous when you get up. But I learned that if you're prepared enough, it's not so bad. The other thing is that 90% of people watching you don't know how to play that instrument. So if you mess it up, they won't know. And then if you do, your friend will say, hey, you messed it up. And you go, okay, well, so what, I did. And then I got so used to the idea that, hey, if I make a fool of myself, it's not that bad because I've done something braver than a lot of people would do.
And you know what? 9 times out of 10, people respect you a lot more for it, because if you can make fun of yourself, then, you're in such a minority, because people don't make fun of themselves. And you know what? That's what life's all about. So, be comfortable in your own skin. That's all I can say.
It again comes back to that imperfection, that vulnerability of being human. And that's what people want to relate to. So the more we do that, AI can't do that. It can never.
AI cannot do that.
So Sarah, thanks so much for chatting to me. I'm going Sarah, like I've got a lisp all of a sudden. Sarah, thanks so much for chatting with me. I love hearing your take, and I know we're going to talk more because I think you're such a you've got such a great view on what you do and marketing in general, and I love hearing it because it just makes me a better marketer, I think.
You make me a better marketer too.
Oh, thank you. But Sarah, thanks. So if people want to find you, if any of my contacts want to find you, how do they go about getting hold of you?
You can, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on, I'm just about on every single platform, on LinkedIn as well. I can give you my details, but if you want to email me directly, you can email me at sarah.english@hotmail.co.uk. You will always get a reply. Other than that, I can give you all my socials to put with the podcast. You can have all my links.
I will put that up, So if people want to get hold of you
and
hire you, because I'd love to see people hire you based on that. And
me too, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
That'd be great. That's the point. Let's make business. I actually don't know why sometimes we people try and hide the fact, like, I want to make money out of things, and I want you to make money out of things, and we mustn't be embarrassed. Let's make money.
We are in business for the love of it, but we do like to get paid every now and again as well.
Like there's that joke. Someone said, "Why do you want this job?" And I said, "Well, I'm really passionate about not starving to death."
That's exactly it.
That's cool. But thanks so much for your time. As always,
You're more than welcome.
Great chat.